I'm excited to begin this workshop where we'll be inspired by the weaver bird. And what I've done is I've just gathered different materials that I found around my house and around my backyard or in my studio. I have sticks. I have packaging material that came inside boxes that I received. I have recycled cardboard. I also have just some recycled cereal boxes that I've cut up into different pieces. I have something as simple as construction paper. I have this ring. I have different kinds of fabric, some burlap. I have yarn. And I have twine and more kinds of yarn. And this one is for macrame because I was doing some macrame. I have some Elmer's glue and different kinds of tape. So I have like a red duct tape and bright neon duct tape and just regular thin masking tape. I have a hot glue gun, scissors, Sharpie. And so what I just encourage you is to look around your house, look around your backyard, or if you have a studio, and just begin to gather different kinds of material. This one here is just moss. I have different kinds of grasses and moss around. So I just encourage you to gather as many different kinds of material as you can, because I hope to inspire you to create different kinds of pieces that really the basis for them are the weaving process. And this is something even that you may recall you learned in elementary school, learning how to weave using paper. And that process really is a beautiful interlocking process. And so that's what we're going to do. We're just going to create different kinds of weavings using these materials. And I'm going to be quite spontaneous. I haven't drawn up a whole plan of what I'm going to do. I'm just going to start gathering the materials, playing around with them, and seeing what might become of them. And one of the goals too is that this can be an ongoing project, because when you weave, it's something you can keep adding to, and maybe you add a story to your weaving project. Maybe you weave text somehow into it. So that's what we're gonna be doing the next little bit here. So the first thing I want to do is show you how to do a basic paper weaving. And what you're going to do is you're gonna cut some vertical lines. We're going to cut the lines going up. Actually, let me get a Sharpie marker, and I'm just going to draw the lines so you can see what I'm talking about. And you can draw these, half an inch or quarter of an inch or 3/4 of an inch. So I just drew some lines basically just to tell me where I'm going to cut them. And I made sure to leave about an inch on top, because I want the pieces of construction paper, other pieces that I'm going to weave through, to not fall out. So what I'm going to do is cut the lines now. I encourage you as you do this, if you have the desire to just really look into weaving, I really encourage you to look up videos online that show the weaving process. For sure, look at videos related to the weaver bird. It's just amazing to watch this bird, and other birds too, how they build their nest. It's really fascinating, and their perseverance and persistence, because sometimes as the weaver bird tries to make a knot, and then it begins to build, and then it realizes the knot wasn't well done, and so the nest comes apart. Quite an example of life when you don't have a firm foundation, I guess. So the weaver bird has to start all over again. But it is one of the only birds that actually knows how to tie a knot with its beak and its feet. So, okay, so now you see I kind of have these frond looking things, right? So all these cut lines here. And now what I'm going to do with my other piece of paper, I'm going to cut lines that are going to weave across. So I'm going to do them, you know, the long way, or landscape as we call it, versus the shorter way. Okay, so I'm going to cut lines all the way across. The last one's a little bit narrow, but that's okay. Obviously, if I wanted these to be super precise, I would be measuring. But for the sake of learning the basics, you know, I just eyed it. So now I have all of my orange paper cut into strips. I'm going to take one of them and I'm going to start behind, and then I go in front of the next one. And then I go behind, and then I go back to the front, and then I go behind and front, behind and front, behind and front, behind, front, behind. So now we have our first weave. Now the next row we would do the opposite. So as you can see, I started with the paper behind the first one. The next one I'm going to do it on top, and then I'm going to go under, and then I'm going to go over, under, over, under, over, under, over. You know, this is something you can do with your child as well, but you really have to help them hold it, because it gets really frustrating when if it starts to come apart by accident. So, you know, do it with your child so you can help them hold it. So now I have two. You can see the checker pattern beginning to form. So there's my finished paper weaving. Hi guys. Pretty simple. Should be the same looking on the other side. Hopefully I'm not insulting my professional weavers out there. But this is just so that you get a basic sense of what it is to do a weaving. And then we're going to move on to other materials. We can do this with fabric. We can do this with our sticks. And I've done it a lot with the grapevines when I was making my nest. So I'm going to now try to do some spontaneous weaving type pieces using the other materials. So I've had this recycled packaging, funky, thin cardboard-like or construction paper for a long time. And I've been trying to think of something I want to do with it because it's so beautiful. I am gonna use my sticks. I'm gonna take my sticks and I'm going to, open these up, and I'm gonna go in and out. See, this might be harder than, oh, you know what? I need to cut off these little parts of the stick that are coming out. I can't go quite as easily through it. So I'm gonna cut these parts off. Okay, let's see how that works. And I'm gonna skip a few and come down, so I don't know, about every inch maybe. So I'll show you what I'm doing. And I'm using, again, that same basic process of going in and out, over and under. You can do this if you don't have, obviously, if you don't have this kind of funky material here. Maybe you can think about finding a piece of paper and making holes in it. I love mixing different kinds of materials. I love texture. I love surprises when I make work. See, I'm almost done. Obviously, you don't have to have your stick this long, but I decided to. Doesn't mean I'm gonna do it long the whole way. And the fun part is once I have kind of this top part, which I'm calling the top part because it's where I'm starting, and it will hopefully allow other things to hang from it, I can really play around with adding different kinds of things I can weave through it. So I'm going to show you up close kind of what this looks like. You can see hopefully there. So I'm going to add another stick. It's kind of like a mini bamboo. Let's see if I start it under. Okay, I'm going to come from this way. And then I did skip about an inch and go about an inch down, you know, and again, it won't be exact, but still trying to just stick to the in-out process. Under, and go over, and under, and over. So, well, here I have a second stick. So maybe I can do something to keep the stick from falling out. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my twine. Okay. So, got my twine. And I'm going to tie some knots. I'm going to tie a knot here. Actually, I'm deciding, yeah. I'm going to tie a knot. There, so that it has a less chance of coming out, and then I'm going to poke it through one of the holes just as another added security. I'm going to tie that. Great. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing with the second stick. There, I think I got a good knot there. So, and I'll trim off the excess here. So all I did was tie some knots so that the sticks don't come out anymore. Okay, and I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut my funky paper down, because this can now become an interesting wall hanging as well. So I'm gonna tie some ends here, and then I'm gonna proceed to weave different things through here. So I'm gonna gather, let's see, some yarn. I might even do some fabric and some of my moss and a couple more sticks, and we'll see where that takes us. All right. Okay, I'm gonna weave some yarn into my piece now. I love the color just kind of peeking through here, the brightness. And that's pretty cool about birds too, by the way. When some of the males are getting ready to find their mate or attract their mate, they go around looking for bright colored objects to bring to the nest that they're building. So, you know, in the midst of the beautiful browns and earthy colors, you might find a bright blue or red of something or another that they've gathered to attract their mate. So there you go. I've now put in, you know, and I'm gonna leave these hanging, dangling. I kind of like that. Okay. So there, we have 3 rows of the bright green yarn. Now I'm gonna add, I think I want to add another stick, and then I'm gonna try to see what it's like to put it in some fabric. I'm really excited that I don't have anything pre-planned, that I just get to be spontaneous and work with what I have. And fun. There we go. So we've got the stick now, and I'm gonna now look at doing some fabric, but I think I'm gonna try to see what it's like to hang fabric from the sticks. take some of this beautiful fabric here and so similar to when I was cutting the construction paper, I'm just going to cut strands. These are about a 1/2 inch wide, and I think I'm going to cut about 4 of them. I'm definitely not worried if they're super straight. My scissors aren't even that sharp. The idea is just to get strands of fabric. So here I have my 4 strands, and they're not single, by the way, because the fabric was folded, so it's kind of really long, and I'm going to keep them about this long when I do put them in my piece. So I think what I would like to do, I'm gonna hang them from the branches here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my fabric right here, and I'm going to push it through the bottom here, and where I have the hole, because remember it was double, so where I have this loop, I'm just gonna take my fabric and pull it through to hold it in place there. Okay, 3 looks better than 4, so I have 3 hanging pieces. I really encourage you to play around with that, hanging things vertically, making things go across, and you can keep building and building and building. I'm gonna do something maybe where I show text. I really love words as well, kind of peering through, so I'm going to just write the word just to serve as an example. Lessons from the Weaver Bird. So here I've written lessons from the Weaver Bird, and I'm going to cut it. I'm gonna cut it in half, so it's a little abstract. Now we have these strange marks, but that's okay. And I'm gonna weave that in my paper as well. I'm gonna have to do this down, so let me see if I can adjust the camera here. Okay, so I'm taking my paper and I'm going to weave it. I'm gonna use my sticks, all of my sticks, and I'm gonna make it go behind here to hold it in place. And there's my one piece of paper woven through, and I think to help keep it firmly in place there, I'm gonna maybe glue or tape it down here. For now, a piece of my tape. I am gonna try to get a better glue here, but for now I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna just keep it in place with my piece of tape. And then I'm gonna do the same with that second half of the word that I have here, the paper, sorry. And let's see, I'm gonna weave that one through here. Again, I'm gonna grab a piece of tape and I'll tape it here. So now you have paper as part of this. I want to continue to incorporate other materials in this, and I'll be back. So I found a hot glue gun that works, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put a few drops on like some of the pieces just to help keep it all in place. Not too much. So some on the stick and some on the yarn, and yeah, I think that's it for now. I'll put some under the paper here to keep the top in place. Then I can remove the tape. I didn't like the tape so much, so I'll remove the tape later. Okay, as you can see, what I ended up doing also is I added a few more sticks there, and I actually tied the fabric onto those sticks. So now I have 2 ties here just to firm up the piece. Now, something else that's fun that I want to do that I just thought of right now is create these little pom poms, these little fuzzy balls, which I think will add kind of to the nest feel of it. So it's not a weaving thing, but I like that it kind of imitates the look of something that's built up and, you know, has some texture. So I'm going to use my twine for it, and what I do is just I have my 2 fingers here, and I wrap the twine, and you can do this with yarn as well. So I'm going to take that and wrap it and wrap it. I probably wrapped it about 10 times right now or so. And so let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have about 12. I went around about 12 times, and then I cut it there. And then I take some more twine, or you can have fun like I'm just about to do. I'm going to grab another color, and I'm going to cut about, I don't know, maybe 8 inches or so of that. And I'm going to take that little twine piece I made here, and I'm going to hold it in place, and I'm going to tie this other piece right in the middle of it, and I'm going to tie it really hard, and I'm going to act like a bird right now. This is so awesome. I did not plan this. This is like the Weaver bird. It has to use its bill. I'm using my hands and my mouth, and I'm going to hold it in place, tie it. I'm going to tie it twice. That was really fun for me. You guys are like, she's crazy. But anyway, so there I have a tied piece of yarn around my twine, and I'm going to do it a 3rd time just to be sure it's nice and tight. Okay, once it's totally tied, so it should look like that. Okay, you're going to take scissors. I'll see which one of my scissors works. So I'm just going to cut one at a time, and I'm basically cutting the loops that are at the ends in half while holding the center. Make sure it doesn't all come apart. Okay, and I'm going to cut those as well. So now if you did this with yarn, this would become a really cool fuzz ball, but I did it with twine. Doesn't have quite the same effect as yarn, but I'm gonna, you know, kind of give some texture, add texture by loosening the twine here, untwisting where it's been twisted. You know, maybe you can, you know, like I said, if you have yarn, you could do it with yarn. If you have fabric, you can maybe cut the fabric into really small strips and try it that way. I'm really encouraging you to experiment, guys. Like I am, okay? I'm trying something new here. So here I have kind of this fuzzy thing here. So now that I have this, I'm going to hang it. I'm going to hang it right here. I'm going to take one of those red pieces. I'm going to tie, and I'm going to do 3 ties. And I'm actually going to trim this one. So there's another fun added textural element. I'm going to keep playing around like that. So I made a second one, and I'm going to, this time I used the green yarn and the twine together. And at that. Here we go, our second fuzzball. Gonna hang that one. And the last thing I want to incorporate is this moss. So, which already very much looks like a nest. So I'm gonna figure out different ways of incorporating this into my piece. So I'm gonna take this moss and I'm going to glue it. I'm gonna use my hot glue and I'm gonna glue it onto this base here. So I'm just gonna take some hot glue and make a big hot glue circle here, and I'm just gonna glue it right on there. And I'm gonna take some of this fabric and I'm gonna try to find a way to incorporate that fabric with my nest as well. I don't know if I'm going to incorporate this one that's already here or if I'm going to add some additional ones. So I'm going to think about it, which is something else that's important, is to pause. It's fine to pause and reflect on the work you've been making and just, decide if you need to add something or if you want to leave it as is. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to think about what I want to do next. So there's my finished piece. I'm pretty happy with it. I decided to incorporate the moss. And if you don't have moss, you can improvise, get things like maybe grass or cut really small pieces of paper or shredded paper. Just be creative, find ways to add texture to your piece. I love that the birds are singing outside right now and the wind blowing the fabric. That concludes the workshop, Lessons from the Weaver Bird.